This week marks a new chapter in the impeachment inquiry into President Trump as the hearings into the allegations about Trump's dealing with Ukraine go public. Beginning Wednesday, 3 witnesses will testify in televised hearings that the Trump administration tried to tie military aid to Ukraine with an investigation into Joe Biden. But Republicans in the Senate say that the whole probe is dead on arrival.
It's impossible to bring this case forward, in my view, fairly, without us knowing who the whistleblower is and having a chance to cross-examine them about any biases that they may have. So if they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
Joining me now from the Trump 2020 Advisory Board, Madison Gesiotto, liberal radio host Ethan Behrman. Madison, is Senator Graham right about this?
Oh, absolutely. If this even does reach the Senate, it will be dead on arrival. We won't see this move forward. And I think I'm very disappointed right now in the Democrats. And of course, I think they're going to get burned when it comes to the ultimate result of what they've chosen to do in this case. My Hill column gets released tonight. I'm talking about that. And you think about the visual of insects flying towards lights, and they end up getting burned. And that's what's going to happen to the Democrats when it comes to 2020. And it comes to them potentially not being able to keep that House majority, which I don't think they're going to be able to keep. Over 2 years spent on a sham Russian collusion investigation, and this is the next step. We have no evidence coming forward that this president has committed any high crimes and misdemeanors, and nothing to support this impeachment. And of course, when it comes to their witnesses, these people have no firsthand knowledge of the call either. So it's absolutely ridiculous and very out of line.
Speaking of witnesses, Ethan, apparently Hunter Biden and the whistleblower will not be showing up, although there's some scuttlebutt today that some folks on the Republican list may be allowed to testify.
Sure. Look, the whistleblower testifying in front of the House openly is ridiculous. That violates the whole concept of what a whistleblower is and how Republicans just a few years ago, including our vice president and Lindsey Graham himself, saying things like they need to be protected to ensure that whistleblowers in the future come forward. That part of it is not a sham, and that's the way it's supposed to work. Furthermore, to what Madison just said, the Russia investigation, 37 individuals indicted. We have 10 counts of obstruction that could have been brought forward. Plus, we have new information coming out with the notes that are going to be presented in this impeachment hearing related back to the Mueller report itself that are quite damning in their own right.
Ethan, you want a do-over on Mueller?
Oh, it's coming out now. More of that information is actually coming out now that was not released in the first place.
Yeah, but I think, Madison, what you were saying is that the goal of implicating President Trump and his team with Mueller, they came up with a dry hole. Essentially, there was some collateral things, which may happen when you spend millions of dollars on an investigation that has no boundaries. But I think you're right, Madison. If you look at these polls right now, and Democrats should be paying attention, I'm sure they are, they're really losing steam with respect to the appetite for this whole process right now.
Right. People are very disappointed, and you look specifically at many of these swing states that are going to be critically important to them when it comes to the 2020 elections, and people are not happy with what they're doing, and many of these people are Democrats. You look at impeachment proceedings prior to 2019, and when you look at these, a lot of times they were very bipartisan. So yes, there's always going to be some level of political involvement in an impeachment proceeding, but at the same time, we saw bipartisan support. That's not what we're seeing now. And even statistically speaking, there's only been 60 impeachments ever in the House. Less than 1/3 of these made it to the Senate, and only 8 people have ever been removed from office, and all of these people were federal judges. So it's even statistically extremely unlikely and improbable that this would happen for them.
Ethan, you're very astute when it comes to the political wins, and you've got to see that that the appetite for this is starting to wane just a bit. And if you have witnesses who don't have firsthand knowledge, you know, there's no real smoking gun there. What's the goal here other than maybe try to sway public opinion? It cannot be to push this to the Senate, can it?
So 3 key things here. First off, if we're comparing back to the Nixon impeachment, the polls are actually far ahead of where it was at this point in the impeachment process during Richard Nixon, who eventually resigned. Secondly, to do the right thing, to investigate when a president extorts or commits bribery against a foreign ally, not an enemy, to do a political hit job on his opponent who happened to jump into the race. Otherwise, we would have heard about this in 2018
and 2017. Opponent, though.
The only political hit job here is against President Trump.
If you're former vice president of the United States and somebody in your family was benefiting from that position, this is not some run-of-the-mill person, you know, who's running, who, by the way, who could have potentially been running against President Trump, because I'm not even sure he was the declared candidate at the time.
Well, now, when all this started, Joe Biden was a declared candidate when we go back and review what has been released so far. Furthermore, I would suggest that not all the witnesses don't have firsthand knowledge. We actually have heard from witnesses who do have firsthand knowledge. Listening to an active phone call is firsthand knowledge.
Okay, well, let's see where it goes, folks. You know, get the popcorn ready. We'll see. Madison, Ethan, we'll have you back, and we'll grade it, if you will. Thank you both very much.
Charles.
Hey,
Thanks, Charles.